Good evening, dear ones. Let's discuss the question and answers from the chapter Ecosystems, which is included in your textbook, Nature Matters, Readings on Life and Nature. Take page number 13. When you open the textbook at page number 13, you can see the comprehension questions, the short answer questions. And the first question is, define ecosystem. The answer is, ecosystem is a biological community of interacting organisms and other physical environment such as forests, grasslands, etc. The term ecosystem was first used by Arthur Tansley in 1935. The second question is, what are the components on which an ecosystem is dependent? Answer. An ecosystem is dependent on two basic components. Biotic, that means living components, and abiotic, that means non-living components. Biotic components include plants and animals, and abiotic components include the geographical, climatic, and soil characteristics. Now the third question. How are ecosystems divided? Name the two types. Answer. Ecosystems are divided mainly into two. Terrestrial, that is land-based, and aquatic, that means water-based. These form the two major habitat conditions for the Earth's living organisms. Now the fourth question, that is, what is a biosphere? Answer. The regions of the surface and atmosphere of the Earth occupied by living organisms can be called the biosphere. The biosphere includes the land, the sea, and the air. Next question, fifth question, that is, what are the different biogeographical realms of the world? Of the world ആണ് ചോദിച്ചത് ആ ഒരു കാര്യം ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക. So നോക്കാം, a biogeographical realm or ecozone is the Earth's land surface based on distributional patterns of terrestrial organisms. These include Palearctic realm, Oriental realm, Nearctic realm, Neotropical realm, Ethiopian realm, and Australian realm. Now moving on to the sixth question, that is, name the biogeographic regions of India. Answer. Biogeographic regions are the subdivisions of the biogeographical realm at the national or state level. India's biogeographic regions include the Himalayas, the Gangetic Plains, the highlands of central India, and the western and eastern Ghats, the Deccan Plateau, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, etc. Now the seventh question, that is, give examples of natural and man-made ecosystems. Answer. Natural ecosystems include forests, grasslands, desert, ponds, rivers, lakes, and the sea. Man-made ecosystems include agricultural land, orchards, zoo, botanical gardens, aquarium, park, urban or industrial land use patterns, etc. Now the eighth question, that is, what are keystone species? Answer. A keystone species is a species which has a disproportionately large effect on its natural environment relative to its abundance. The destruction of that species may even lead to the destruction of that whole ecosystem. Next question, that is the ninth question. What are biotic components? Answer. Biotic components are the living things that shape an ecosystem. Examples of biotic components include animals, plants, fungi, and bacteria. Now the last question, that is the 10th question. What are the reasons for the degradation of ecosystems? Answer. One of the central reasons for the degradation of ecosystems include human actions which lead to the extinction of species of plants and animals. Pollution, climate change, land clearing, resource exploitation, etc. lead to the degradation of an ecosystem. Now we will discuss the essay and the paragraph questions. So all the paragraph questions I have included within the essay. So when you open the textbook at page number 14, you can see the essay questions. Two essay questions. The first one is a comment on the structure and the composition of an ecosystem. Second one, write an essay on the degradation of an ecosystem. So note the idea. The second paragraph of the essay is answer of paragraph question numbers 1 and 2 from the textbook. The third paragraph of the essay is the answer of paragraph question number 4 from the textbook. The fourth paragraph of the essay is the answer of paragraph question number 3 from the textbook. We will start with the first paragraph of the essay. The first paragraph of the essay is, the famous American naturalist E.O. Wilson once said, if any species are extinguished, will the ecosystem collapse? The only answer anyone can give is possibly. By the time we find out the answer, however, it might be too late. One planet, one experiment. The destruction of the natural beauty, the ecosystems and the majesty of mountains affect us in ways we are not even aware of. Every time a mountain is beheaded, we chop off a little part of our own souls. An ecosystem is a system formed by the interactions of a variety of individual organisms with each other and with the physical environment. The economy itself will die if our ecosystems collapse. But humans have changed ecosystems more rapidly and extensively than in any comparable period of time in human history, largely to meet rapidly growing demands for food, fresh water, timber, fiber, and fuel. This has resulted in a substantial and largely irreversible loss in the diversity of life on Earth. Now we will move on to the second paragraph of the essay. The second paragraph of the essay is the answer of paragraph question number 1 and 2 from the textbook. So paragraph question number 1 is, state the differences between the biotic and abiotic components of an ecosystem. Paragraph question number 2 is, what are the characteristic features of an ecosystem? Answer. An ecosystem is a geographic area where plants, animals and other organisms as well as weather and the landscape work together to form a bubble of life. It is a biological community of interacting organisms and the physical environment such as forests, grasslands, etc. The term ecosystem was first used by Arthur Tansley in 1935. The ecosystem is dependent on two basic components, biotic, that is living components, and abiotic, that is non-living components. Biotic components include plants and animals, and the abiotic components include the geographical, climatic, and the soil characteristics. Biotic components are the living things that have a direct or indirect influence on other organisms in an environment. Abiotic components of an ecosystem include all chemical and physical elements, that is, non-living components. Abiotic components can vary from region to region, from one ecosystem to another. They mainly take up the role of life supporter. They determine and restrict the population growth, number, and a diversity of biotic factors in an ecosystem. Hence, they are called limiting factors. Biotic components can be classified into three categories: producers, consumers, and decomposers. The nature of the ecosystem is based on its geographical features such as hills, mountains, plains, rivers, lakes, coastal areas, or islands. It is also controlled by climatic conditions such as the amount of sunlight, the temperature and the rainfall in the region. Ecosystems are divided mainly into two: terrestrial, that is land-based, and aquatic, that is water-based. These form the two major habitat conditions for the Earth's living organisms. Every factor in an ecosystem depends on every other factor, either directly or indirectly. A change in the temperature of an ecosystem will often affect what the plants will grow there, for instance. Animals that depend on plants for food and a shelter will have to adapt to the changes, move to another ecosystem, or perish. The relevance of biotic and abiotic components in an environment appears when they start interacting with each other. For example, biotic components like plants provide food for other organisms. The soil is the abiotic component which supports the growth of the plants by providing nutrients and other essential elements. Biotic components depend on abiotic components for their survival and help in the formation of abiotic factors like soil, nutrients, etc. Next, we will move on to the third paragraph of the essay. The third paragraph of the essay is the answer of paragraph question number 4 from the textbook. That question is, what are the reasons for the depletion of resources? Answer. The cost of our success is the exhaustion of natural resources, leading to energy crisis, climate change, pollution, and the destruction of our habitat and the earth. One of the central reasons for the degradation of ecosystems include human actions which lead to the extinction of species of plants and animals. Pollution, climate change, land clearing, resource exploitation, etc. lead to the degradation of an ecosystem. In every ecosystem, there will be a keystone species. A keystone species is a species which has a disproportionately large effect on its natural environment relative to its abundance. The destruction of that species may even lead to the destruction of that whole ecosystem. Depletion of natural resources will eventually lead to a world with lesser elements to survive and makes human life a hardship. Natural resources are the ones that maintain equilibrium in the environment and life. Natural resources like air, water, solar energy, soil, minerals, coal, etc. are those basic elements that we, living beings, use to lead a normal life. Depletion of natural resources will completely stun the day-to-day life of a human being as well as fellow living things. The depletion of natural resources occurs when we vigorously use the available ones at a rapid speed. Some of these non-renewable resources like coal, minerals, etc. take millions of years to form, and thus the rapid use will result in depletion of these natural resources. Unsustainable use of these natural resources due to the demand and increase in population has also resulted in a depletion of natural resources. Switching to the renewable sources is one of the many ways to save natural resources from depletion. In order to save this depletion of natural resources, we humans should find out and execute more sustainable and non-polluting ways to use these natural resources. Humans are using natural resources endlessly day by day. The pollution explosion is causing over-exploitation of natural resources with little or no care to conserving them. To meet this massive population, depletion of natural resources is happening. However, we need to understand that natural resources are finite. Even renewable resources are not being given enough time to replenish. Thus, one can even wonder what the condition of non-renewable resources might be. Therefore, this depletion of natural resources is quite harmful to the earth and its inhabitants. Next, we will move on to the fourth paragraph of the essay. The fourth paragraph of the essay is the answer of paragraph question number 3 from the textbook. That question is, write a short note on the function of an ecosystem. The answer is, the ecosystem functions through several biochemical cycles and energy transfer mechanisms. Both the biotic and abiotic components of the ecosystem interact with each other. All the chains are joined together to form a web of life on which human depends. Each of these uses energy that comes from the sun and powers the ecosystem. An ecosystem regulates the essential ecological processes, supports life systems, and renders the stability. It is also responsible for the cycling of nutrients between biotic and abiotic components. Maintains a balance among the various trophic levels in the ecosystems. It also cycles the minerals through the biosphere. The biotic components help in the synthesis of organic components that involves the exchange of energy. The functional attributes of the ecosystem keep the components running together. Ecosystem functions are natural processes or exchange of energy that take place in various plant and animal communities of different biomes of the world. For instance, green leaves prepare food and roots absorb nutrients from the soil. Herbivores feed on the leaves and the roots and in turn serve as food for the carnivores. Decomposers execute the functions of breaking down complex organic materials into simple inorganic products which are used by the producers. Fundamentally, ecosystem functions are exchange of energy and nutrients in the food chain. These exchanges sustain plant and animal life on the planet as well as the decomposition of organic matter and the production of biomass. All these functions of the ecosystem take place through delicately balanced and controlled processes. Ecosystems are what sustain both humans and animals, providing them with energy, nutrients, oxygen, water, and shelters, among other things. Ecosystems don't have strict boundaries or size. They can range from something as small as a dead tree dump to something or as large as the ocean. In conclusion, ecosystems have a complex set of interactions that happen between the biotic and abiotic components. The components of an ecosystem are linked to each other through the energy flows and nutrient cycles. Even though ecosystems do not have clear boundaries, these interactions get affected even if one factor is changed or removed. This ultimately has the capacity to affect the entire ecosystem. Now we will discuss the concluding paragraph of the essay. All our efforts to defeat poverty and pursue sustainable development will be in vain if environmental degradation and natural resource depletion continue unabated. There is a need for us to learn how to find a balance between resource preservation and economic development. If we fail to do this and exhaust all of our natural resources, there would not be any more natural resources for us to exploit and use to meet all of our needs. We should remember that the earth is a fine place and worth fighting for. When we heal the earth, we heal ourselves. We have finished discussing the short answer questions, paragraph question and essay questions. Now we will wind up our class for today and we will meet again in the next class with a new chapter.